if you listen to this podcast, you probably use AI, but the question is, do you use it the right way? Is there potential for optimizing what you put into the AI? And yeah, probably there is. And to give you an overview how on one hand complicated, on the other hand easy it can be, we talked today to John Munsell. He is the founder of Bizzuka, a firm that has a strong focus on teaching AI, and he developed a great system that can help how to use AI for yourself, for your whole firm. But first, a warm welcome to the Beginner's Guide to AI, another interview episode, and let's just jump to the interview. So before I talk more about John than is necessary, the best thing is I give the microphone to him then, because he is much better in telling you why he's here on the podcast, and that's the AI topic. John, what did bring you into AI actually? Why AI? And yeah, first of all, thank you for being here in the podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me. I got to tell you, I took I don't know, several hours and binge watched a lot of your podcast,
Thank
and
you.
I love your stuff. I was watching, what was his name? Voss was his last name.
Peter Voss,
Was it?
yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
was going to
great
say
guy.
Peter Voss, but no, that sounds too
Yeah,
familiar. But yeah, his was fascinating. So I love your work, and I am honored to be part of it. So I appreciate it.
thank you.
Let's see. I had an agency. We started off as a software company back in 1997, and we developed web applications for people, websites for people, mobile applications for people. We gradually became a digital marketing agency, and then I don't know. I guess it was kind of around the COVID years when we started trimming back and then trying to find ways to use software to solve problems. And we started to mess around with AI, copy AI and Jarvis at the time, which is now Jasper. And I thought, well, this is interesting, but it seems to talk in circles. But at least it got us, from 0 to 60 in 2.3 seconds. So we got a head start. But the editing process just it took forever, and it just wasn't very good copy. So I thought, well, this is interesting, but it's not quite ready for prime time. And then I sold off the agency side of our business about closing in on 3 years ago. And the idea was to contract because my wife and I as I always say, dangerously close to becoming empty nesters. So we wanted to be able to travel and visit our children who are in various parts of the country and world. So we did that. We sold that out, and that's when I thought, okay, now what I need to do is figure out what's John Munsell 2.0 look like, what's Bizzuka 2.0 look like, and then I started this thing called the CXO AI Roundtable, where we would meet every Friday with a bunch of CXOs, and the group grew and grew and grew. And I would teach them something about AI because I thought that was interesting. But the bigger reason I started that, Dietmar, was to find out what problem the market wanted solved. And I thought if I can figure out what that problem is, then I could build a new company around solving that problem. So that's pretty much how I really started to get immersed in AI. I was using it to write the copy to promote the CXO AI roundtable, and then I was using it to figure out what are some neat things that I could teach people. And because we had gone from 40 down to four, I had to use it a lot. AI was my other 26, 36 employees, right? So that was kind of how I got immersed in it. So
Well, that is great. I mean, this reminds me a little bit of my story. I didn't sell anything off yet, but it's like how to do it. And we are also a small agency where we do a lot with AI. I think that's all the people talk about that. Yeah, it's like, what can how can we have virtual colleagues or something like that, no? And
yeah.
yeah, and now actually you are still teaching AI, huh, to the people.
Oh
This is
yeah.
what you actually do now.
Yeah. Exactly. So that's as a process of going through and trying to find what problem the market wanted solved. I was stumbling into my own problems that I was solving. And as you know, typically happens with a founder, you solve a problem for yourself, and then you realize there are a whole lot of other people that have this problem. And so I got pretty good at manipulating AI tools. When ChatGPT came out, that's when things really started to get interesting because it took the guardrails off of all these other tools, right? And so when GPT 3.5 came out, I thought, okay, this is getting kind of fun. And so I would teach people a little bit how to use it. And then when 4 came out, it started to write really good copy, had some really good logic. And I had built so many different prompts that really helped our marketing that, people are like, how did you do that? Now, here's the thing. I started off years ago with spreadsheets, and I'm talking about decades ago, right? And when I used to work in the financial services industry. So I worked for a bank, and at that bank, I was building spreadsheets that would analyze commercial financial statements and um, lots of other things, build board reports, et cetera. The one thing that I learned that I had to teach other people was, look, you never hard code a variable into a row of cells. In other words, if you want this row to grow by 10%, you don't put 10% in the cell itself and copy it apart.
Yeah.
You put 10% into a cell that you can change in the event you want to change that assumption and you want it to be 12% or 8%. Then everything changes automatically. So that was it. And I thought that's the principle that I want to take into my way of prompting. I don't want to have to go into a giant paragraph and swap out, a couple of words or sentences. I wanted to structure it so that these were variables. And then I wanted to actually organize the variables like I would in a spreadsheet where I have a table of assumptions where all of those variables are sitting. So I don't have to go all over the place to try to find my assumptions.
Yeah.
And so I just started to build a framework around that. And it grew because we were solving more than a marketing problem for people. So there were definitely different ways that you could use AI. And so it was that process that I created that people were like, whoa, I hadn't seen that before. How did you do that? And so eventually we went into paid training because a lot of these CXOs were like, can you just teach us how to do that? I'm like, yeah, I can't do that for free anymore. So we created a course, and I tell you what, when you actually sit down and people are paying you to train, you want them to learn just as much as they want to learn. And one of the things that was interesting to me, Dietmar, was that the the thing that was in my head that I could picture in my head about all the things that needed to go in. I noticed that we had a 6-week course, and after the first 2 sessions, I realized that they weren't seeing what I was seeing, and I'm a visual guy, and so I thought, okay, I need to put this in a visual
Yeah.
form that they can understand, and then I created this thing called the AI strategy canvas, based off of what was called the business model canvas, if you're
Yeah.
familiar with
Great.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I had seen that about 12 years earlier. And I thought that's a brilliant way to explain to people their business model and to help you think through all the moving parts of the business model. And it just clicked for me. I was like, wow, everything that I'm teaching people is very, very similar to that. And so
Hmm.
I put it into a canvas just like that, organized it, where you had what I would call the value creation on the right side and the value refinement on the left side. The bottom, it was the execution, or what we would call the request, and the rules on the left side. So think of it as expenses and revenue at the bottom of it all, and everything else is context. So I created that, and I showed it to him on the third week, and it clicked for everybody. And I was like, oh, now I'm on to something. And what was fun is, like, they were like, you're on to something. This is really helpful. So that's kind of the rapid fire gestation of how I got into this.
That is actually, I mean, we are in a podcast here, even though we have video, but the general thing is that I mean, it's much harder to explain something just with audio, and if you have something you can give the people that they can actually use. I used the business model canvas for a long time myself, for teaching, and it's like for students that never heard anything about what is for the people who don't know. It's like a 9 field matrix where you put basically your whole business in, and other people can easily access what you wrote in there. So, and if you have that for AI, that's really a thing. We definitely have to put something in the show notes if you have something,
Oh yeah,
at
yeah,
least. Yeah,
yeah. I mean, real easily, like our company's called Bizzuka, Bizzuka, right? So it's not the weapon, not the bubble gum, but it's just Bizzuka. If you go there, in the AI section, there's AI strategy canvas, or if you want to just spell it, and it's AI dash strategy dash canvas. If you go there, you can actually request a copy of it, and we'll instantly email you a copy of the canvas so you can have access to it.
perfect, perfect. Yeah, because this is really a thing I also struggle to explain those concepts. And because people, I mean, they do their work, they have their normal work, and they don't have so much time. And then you come with a new thing they have to learn. What is, if you have to teach those people, what's the most problematic? What is the thing they don't grasp, or where struggle they struggle most?
Yeah, great question. Because the majority of what we teach people is how to use generative AI tools like ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude, Gemini, et cetera. All right. The inherent problem with those tools is their benefit, which is their natural language processing tools. So you can just type in what you want and you can ask it a question. Okay, so the minute you can ask it a question and it gives a pretty thoughtful response, you think, wow, this is amazing. The problem with that is that everybody else who does that and gets a response thinks, wow, I'm amazing. I could now teach others this, because
Yeah.
they've asked questions and they've got good responses. The problem that I see is that people just dive in and start asking questions. And what ends up happening is they have to go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth to get something. Initially, they're impressed, but then after they work for a while with it, they realize it's not getting it. It's falling back on its default logic. And ChatGPT, all of these large language models have been populated with the world's content. Every piece of content ever generated in the history of the world is stuffed into those little machines. Well, big machines. those giant machines don't know the difference between excellence and mediocrity. They just know frequency, right? And so, since they're essentially predicting the next word, they're predicting what they have seen with relative frequency. And so that's where it becomes your job to know what excellence looks like so that you can get it out of it. Now, the other thing that it doesn't know is it doesn't know who you are. It doesn't know who your target audience is. It doesn't know what's going on in their minds. It doesn't know anything about your company or your products or your services or the problems you solve or your thoughts on the subject or anything else unless you tell it. And so if you just dive right in asking questions, you'll eventually figure out, I should have given it this information. It needs more. And so you're constantly guiding it and guiding it and guiding it. And that's the purpose of the framework, the strategy canvas, is to give you a look at what you should be talking about first, what information you should gather first. The other thing is, like think about it. In the business model canvas, the first block is, if you remember, it's customer segments, right? The bottom one is expenses and revenues, but at the top, that's where you have all these other pieces of context. So, what are your customer segments? If you don't have customer segments, you really don't have a business.
Mhm.
Well, target audience is the first block in the AI strategy canvas. We need to know who we're talking to. We need to know who the beneficiary is of the AI that we're building or working with. The more we know, the better the output. And so what we teach people to do is not just go, oh, my audience is CEOs of small businesses. All right, that's a default piece of information that ChatGPT could probably figure out on its own. What they really need to be providing is all the details of that persona. All right. What's going on with them psychologically? What are their pains, their frustrations? What are their processes for finding a solution to the problem? What's the path that led them to recognize they have a problem and then go seek a solution to it? There's so many variables that you want to know about your persona. Sometimes you can put them in the prompt itself. At the very top of the prompt is what we call these prompt stacks and prompt chains. But at the very top, you want to talk about who your persona is. And other times you can use these AI tools to build really deep profiles, like page long, 2-page long profiles of your target persona. So we teach people how to build those out, store them, and then you can call them into ChatGPT projects or ChatGPT custom GPTs or Claude projects or Gemini gems, right? So you can pull them into Notebook LM, et cetera. But you need to prepare these documents,
Yeah.
right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And the more that you can prepare customized information for the AI, the better the output is going to be.
Yeah.
But there's a process you need to go through to assemble all that. And then when you have it and you've got it in there, man, the results are insanely different.
Yeah. This
Make sense?
totally makes sense because this is like structured and you have to have some information in there that you, if you just start with chatting, you can't put a whole persona profile in there. That's just simply not, you might, or ChatGPT, even if you do a good prompt and ask something like, do you have further questions? And then ChatGPT might come and ask, can you give me something there? And you put two,
Right.
three other things in, but that's not a whole persona. So that's a whole different level. With just chatting, you never reach that depth. That's, I think, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it will eventually stop asking you questions, you know, but it would be far better if you knew it up front, right? If you
Mhm.
had it up front. And then if it needs clarification, it'll ask you for that. But at the end of the day, the more, it's like they say, garbage in, garbage out,
Yeah,
right? But the more detail you can provide the AI about your specific persona, the better.
yeah,
And then the same with the next two blocks, the company block and the products and services block. I really want to get really detailed about my company. Who are we as a company? What are our values? What's our mission? What's our history? What are our locations? I can go on and on and on about building information about the company. And then products and services, it's the same thing, right? Because a lot of times we're using Gen AI tools to either write marketing content or to have a conversation with our customers through a chat bot or something like that, or to onboard employees, right? Or to train salespeople. If you think about all those use cases, your GPT or your chatbot or whatever it is needs to have a significant amount of detail in order to really play that role well, right? And it also needs some additional context as well. There's lots of things to think through. And so the point of us using something like the Canvas is to guide the conversations when we're first just coming up with strategy, right? I want to really think through, if I get my executive team together, I want to be thinking through our AI strategy, and the Canvas helps you think through every piece of defining a strategy, and then you take that assemblage and now you're pulling in your team to actually build out the initiative that has been defined at the strategic level, right? So they may say, "Oh, um, let's build out a system where people can call in, and instead of pushing buttons to go through the IVR, right? The press one for this, press two for that, press D for this. It would be really cool if they could just have a conversation,
yeah,
and you can now do that with an AI, right? But there's a lot of moving parts to that. And once again, the Canvas kind of guides them to assemble all that information and who are the people that are, that need to be involved in that discussion. And then when you get down to executing it, now you need the Canvas to guide you through the structure of the prompts so that the AI really knows how to respond when you actually deploy the software. Does that make sense? So those are the three levels we use that. So we use it to guide strategy, we use it to really define the initiative, and then we use it to execute the initiative.
As the process is quite complicated, would you say everybody, I mean, the other way around, do you already need specialists to do that? Or is it like still something everybody can do?
No, I mean, it sounds like the process is complicated, but it's not. You literally, you just, like we've blown it up to where it's 6 feet, this canvas, and we just sit there with yellow stickies and colored stickies, and we put them on there until we have it all. The other thing that we do is we record all these sessions with an AI note taker.
Mhm.
The AI note taker then assembles it all, and now we have a complete definition of what we're doing, right? Then we can take that and we can go through the execution process. But the thing is that it takes 20 minutes to learn how to use it, right? And inside of our training, like our training to go through the whole process is typically, it used to be a 6-week process, but we've now boiled it down into modules and lessons. And some people go through it in 2 weeks, and some people, because they have other stuff, they'll go through it in 6 weeks. But it's really quick to learn. And then once you get it's like anything else, once you get the hang of it, then it becomes second nature. And then when you get the hang of it, especially when it comes to prompting, what you have is you have a consistent methodology that everybody uses. And now somebody from HR can look at a prompt that somebody in marketing created and say, oh, wow, that's brilliant. If I just swap out your persona for my persona, I could use that same prompt. And instead of writing a job post that goes on the website that really attracts somebody, I can use it to write the legal description that goes inside of our HR documentation, right? Same prompt. I'm just swapping out two variables in it.
Mhm.
So I don't have to rebuild it. I don't have to go back and forth with the AI. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
But like I say, when everybody learns it from the same level of understanding, now you're able to scale AI much, much faster in the organization.
it's like a little bit, everybody talks now about AI agents, and I think it's the first step to building one. If you have,
That's exactly right.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that's
it's,
exactly right. Yeah. I mean, you think about, when you talk about AI agents is connecting a bunch of different systems, and where one AI talks to something else, and then it maybe gets its feedback and goes back into that AI, or maybe it goes into a different one. So you're chaining all these things together. And, at its purest sense, an AI agent is basically an AI that pushes all the buttons for you and gives you the report back. So you're not going back and forth and back and forth. It's literally automated. But at each step along that process, you have to provide it with customized information. And so what we say the first step in building an AI agent is really building a custom GPT for yourself. And I don't know whether you noticed, but this week ChatGPT just launched custom projects, right? And a project is just slightly nuanced, different from a custom GPT. It's a I call it's a lousy way to create folders. I wish they would have allowed us to create folders, but oh well.
yeah.
But anyway, when you're able to do that, you're able to assemble documentation, and you're able to really guide an AI to a custom purpose by giving it unique foundational information as its knowledge base, right? And that it makes life really easy, especially if you're in HR or if you're in marketing, to have a GPT with a specific purpose because it's already got that information. Man, it just speeds life up. But then once you know how to do that, then you're kind of like, oh, wow, maybe if I could go from here to here to here, that would be cool. And that's where you get into agentic AI. The the trickiest part for me with agentic AI is the security aspects of it. I'm still a little hesitant, with certain things because they basically are keystroke loggers. And that worries me right now. So when I get, certain aspects you don't like we build agents all the time that you don't have to worry about that. It's just that when you give an AI access to your screen and your keystrokes, and you're telling it, go ahead and log in my bank account and transfer money to my daughter. I get a little nervous with that,
Yeah.
right? Because look, I don't know about you, but about every other day, my bookkeeper gets an email from somebody masquerading as me and saying, "Hey, can you pay this invoice for me?" And it's even got an email thread that's all fictitious about somebody saying, "Hey, where's our payment on this?" And then me going, "Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to submit it." And then me forwarding it to the accountant and say, "Quick, I need you to wire this money to somebody," every single day. Now, um, with in the area of deep fakes, they can fake my voice, they can fake my face, they can fake a whole lot of stuff. So we've had to create security protocols just to make sure that those wire transfers don't occur. We had a situation about 8 years ago where our bookkeeper wired out $20,000 to one of these scams. We were fortunate enough to get it, but 20 grand before payroll is a big hit. Last week, we had a situation where her email actually got hacked. And the hacker sent an email to one of our clients and said, I need you to change the ACH payment. And it was from her with her new signature,
Yeah.
by the way,
Yeah.
her new email signature. And they sent back an ACH change form. The hacker then sent it back to them with my actual signature. Okay, so he was able to, or she, whoever the hacker was able to find in the history of emails the signed document that we sent to somebody else.
Yeah.
They took
Yeah.
that signature, popped it into the PDF, sent it to the client. The client changed our banking information to send payments to this person's account. Now, I don't know that all that was handled with AI, but she had a pretty decent password going into it. It could have been hacked by AI. She could have, clicked on something. But the age of AI makes the proliferation of scams, uh, you know, uh, even more massive,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I
So those are all the things that scare me. Now we got way off topic for agentic
But it's
AI, but
really
I'm just
important for
saying,
the people
be
out there.
careful.
I didn't
Yeah.
stop you on this because that is really, really happening out there. You have to be careful of that, about that. And AI is really like scaling that up. I had to take because I'm with the in Munich in the University of Armed Forces in a project, and we had to take one of those classes on educating us on information security. It is crazy what they do now with AI. So it's
Oh
exactly,
yeah.
they scale that up. Those mails, those fake mails coming, they get better and better because they use AI. And I
Mhm.
mean, then you can, if you have all the emails from one person, like from your accountant or so, or whatever, whoever gets hacked, you can make the tone of voice, you can copy that from there and write in her style. It's
Yep. Yep. And that's exactly what happened. I mean, the thing that we keep noticing, like I was just going through something, and if we were on video, I would show you. But I was looking at a social media post from a friend of mine who's in the AI space, and I could look at the social media post, and I could see he probably has a little bit of AI in it, and he edited some things that made it a little disjointed um, in certain areas. Okay. Now, people replied to that, and I could look at the replies and I could instantly see which ones were AI generated replies because the AI got tripped up in his verbiage because he didn't quite tie back certain pronouns to a thing, right? And so the AI got tripped up. But you can start to see these things. You're like, okay,
mm,
they don't
mm,
know how to use, they don't know how to prompt AI to write
yeah,
a right response because they just said, oh, write a reply to this. Okay. And it creates this bogus sounding reply. But the better you get at using AI, the more natural and more realistic that sounds, right? And so these replies that are clearly fake, as I would call them, are going to get better. I could always, and my assistant can always spot an email that comes from, I don't know, a foreign country or something, because of the reply from me that says, go pay this bill, doesn't sound like me at
Mhm,
all.
mhm, mhm.
But with AI
Yeah,
now, they
yeah.
can train it on all of my emails. If they get access to her email or my email, they can go through the history, train it, because now it's got subject matter and it's got actual examples, and turn around and they can write it, which is why this particular email, it sounded like it came from her. It
Mhm,
sounded
mhm.
pretty logical.
Yeah.
I don't know whether you heard about that thing. I guess it was back in February of this year, in Hong Kong. A company had a Zoom conference call with the CEO
Yes.
and a bunch of employees. The CEO was a deep fake, and the CEO tricked five people into wiring $1 million each into a different account. And literally, they made off with $5 million.
So
I mean,
crazy. Yeah. And
that makes
and
20 grand look like a drop in the bucket.
Yeah, and you have to imagine people out there. If your picture, you can even take a picture now and make a video from it. But if your video is out,
Right.
that's really easy. I have this podcast here. I mean, it's so easy. Then everybody can fake me if they
Yeah.
want to. It's
Yeah, yeah.
even
Tools like
the
HeyGen, they can clone
yeah,
you
yeah,
and clone your voice, and next thing you know, you're saying stuff that you're like, I never said that.
yeah,
But
and the
that's why
style,
we've had to
everything.
go to
Yeah,
real stuff. Yeah,
yeah.
we like I now to approve a payment, to prove a wire, to prove or approve a an ACH thing. My assistant knows that we have a code and a text. She texts me or she calls me,
Yeah,
and we have
yeah,
a phone conversation.
yeah.
Some technology where we know we're not going to get deep faked, because we've gone James Bond on it, right? We have
Yes.
a sequence of codes back and forth.
You have to nowadays. No, but
Yeah,
actually, people be really careful about that. But let's come to this is probably not the use case people mostly have when they come to the seminars. Although it would help, I wouldn't
yeah.
advise to teach those people because someone might think you help someone. But what's the people coming to you? What's their problem? Do they have a problem, or are they in this like when internet came? I need a website, so I need AI, or do they really have problems already?
So what they typically have is a number of problems. The main one, most of the people who come through our courses are, I guess you would say, business owners or C-levels. And their problem is they know they need to get AI going, but they're not really sure. And they know they have people in the organization using it, but they're not really clear on how to use it. So we have these skills tracks that we created. So everybody in the organization goes through three foundational layers of training. The first one is security, safety, and ethics. So everybody at least gets to understand that. The second one is where we teach them the strategy canvas and how to use that. The third one is what we call scalable prompt engineering. So we teach them how to create prompts that are scalable, replicable, and shareable. And then we go into these skills tracks. All right. So when you're learning practical AI applications, you would go through the HR track. If you're in HR, you would go through the legal track. If you're in legal, you go for the customer service track. If you're in customer service, but we have one for business leaders specifically. And the business leader track gives them a global view of everything, but it also shows them how to execute, but really kind of an administrative layer to simplify their job. Right. And so that's what the majority of the people that are coming to us now. And then what they do is they realize, oh, we have a really disjointed use of AI in our organization. Everybody's self taught. Everybody's learning it their own way. Everybody's doing it differently. Everybody's getting different results. We have no way to scale that. And so that's the next problem they come to us with is they're like, we don't have a shared knowledge here. We don't have what we would call a shared language or understanding. And we don't have a protocol for execution, right? So we don't have any SOPs. We don't have any standard operating procedures. And so they go through our training to get everybody now I guess, aligned,
Mhm, mhm.
so that everybody's operating it the same way. And they really say, look, we need to get everybody thinking about how to use AI first, rather than going old school or being afraid of it or anything else. If we can get everybody thinking AI first, then we can really ramp up and scale. And so that's essentially what our training does, is it helps people understand that AI is not just for writing a blog post. AI can be your thought partner. AI is nothing to be afraid of. AI is very, very powerful, especially when you give it all the information. So if you think about it, if you can make AI the smartest person in your organization, or the replicating the best salesperson in your organization, now you have really powerful systems that everybody can tap into. So that's what we try to. That's the problem essentially that we're solving for our clients, is getting everybody on the same page, and we call that ingraining AI in the organization for an AI first mentality. In fact, that's the book I think I told you about that I'm in the middle of writing, and gosh, I'm so far behind on that book, but I'm hoping that I can get it released by the end of the week and up into the hands of a publisher.
Use AI. It's just
Yeah. Oh, look, man, that's the crazy thing, right? It's very meta. I am using AI to write a book about AI, and I have to constantly harness AI. And it's all my thoughts. It's just like, to go to a ghostwriter and have it written, it would take forever, because AI is constantly changing. And I'm sure I would drive a ghostwriter crazy, because I'm like, oh, wait, you got to do this. Oh, wait, you got to do that. But AI is really helping me with that. And it's very fun. But I'm about 2 months behind schedule, but it's a 17 chapter book, and I've refined just about everything. I have about 8 more refinements to go on the final 8 chapters. And then, I'm going to put it in some people's hands and have them read it and give me some feedback. And then we throw in the illustrations, and then we're off to Amazon to publish. So,
you already see the end of the tunnel. So
yeah,
it's
yeah, the light at the end of the tunnel. Yeah, yeah. I like it. It's interesting. I mean, writing a book is something I've never done before, and I've learned a lot in that process. Learned a lot about AI for sure, because I've been writing it for the better part of 5 months, and I thought I'd be in and out of it in 2 weeks. But if I was writing a little pamphlet, yeah, I could be in and out of it in a week or two. But this is a philosophy, and it's a framework,
Mhm.
and it's a system. So I have to give people example prompts, of how to do stuff, and not this, go to ChatGPT and say, give me 7 prompts for, marketing. And it gives you all these bogus prompts that when you test them,
Yeah,
they don't
yeah,
work. No,
yeah.
these are very sophisticated and robust prompts that generate really, really good output, or solve a significant business problem. So I have to put all those in there and organize them, and try not to blow people's, brains apart when they read it. So
Yeah.
it's tricky.
Um, Talking about you use AI like for the book or whatever. What's certain use cases you have yourself for AI? Uh,
Boy. Well, if you want to talk about just writing the book, for instance, again, I know what's in my head. I know what our framework is. I know how to create these prompts. So I had to teach. I'm using Claude primarily. So I had to teach Claude how to generate these prompts, and they're very similar to what the people in Anthropic would tell you to do, but I've cranked it up a notch, right? So I would teach it how to write these prompts so that I could add them into the book. But then Claude writes better. I like Claude's copy better. And I've had to give it a bunch of style parameters so that it knows how to weave a story together, and so that it knows how to speak in my casual voice and all that stuff. But then I'll go to ChatGPT and have it analyze the book itself, as if it were a publisher.
mhm,
Hay
mhm,
House is
mhm.
one of the bigger publishers, and so I have ChatGPT become a Hay House editor and review the book and look for certain things. And so it starts spitting stuff out. And then I go back over to Claude and I'll start refining those things. And there's certain things that Claude will write. And I'm like, I don't think you're getting it. So then I'll go over to ChatGPT and I'll start telling ChatGPT, look, here are my thoughts on this thing. I want you to organize these thoughts. And it'll blow up into a big, complicated document because ChatGPT loves to talk like a scientist. And I'll take that and I'll put it over to Claude and I go, okay, now write this in my voice
Mm.
and tie it into the rest of the book. And so it's been interesting. I'm going back and forth, but it's cool because the tricky part with Claude, and you know this if you've worked with any of these AI tools at a massive frequency like I do, if when you're using the playground or the back end, you pay by the token, right? You have a token charge, and so they make something. If you're using it from the front end, you pay your $20 monthly subscription. We have a team version, so we're paying more like $250 a month. But the way they apply tokens to the front end is by giving you a timeout. If you use it too much, they go, okay, that's all you can use it, and you're locked out for the next 2, 3, 4 hours, right? Um, ChatGPT, especially if you're using 401 now, not 401 preview, but 401, you use 401 now that it's out. If you overuse it, you're locked out for 4 or 5 days,
That's crazy.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So what I've had to do is I'll get locked out. It'll say, oh, you have 6 more messages until 1 p.m. and it's only 10 in the morning, and so then I'll have to go log into another one of our accounts, use it for a while, get it locked out, go log into another account, use it for a while, and then circle back to the first account, which now means that my book is written by 3 different authors. But since I'm writing chapters, it's really written by 17 different authors, and each one has to know where the other one is. And so every time I write a chapter, I have to upload the new version of the book, so at least it has context. And it's been fascinating, I can tell you. But I tell you what, I've learned more about prompting and prompt engineering as I'm trying to write a book about prompting and prompt engineering.
And kind of
It's
next
really
book would
cool.
be about writing a book with AI.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Oh, that's
It'd be
crazy.
a boring book, though.
I don't know. That's a specialized book for people who really need to know that. No, it's like
Well,
I wrote my books
yeah.
without AI, and it was really, really
Well, I tell
hard
you what,
process. Yeah.
because I have literally probably 1,000 different conversations going back and forth with AI. I'd have to go through them now. Now that I've made all the mistakes, I keep telling myself, okay, I'm going to now write out the process. So when I write the sequel to this book, it'll go a lot faster because now I know all
Yeah.
the stuff that I had to do that didn't work. Because all these AI tools have their bag of tricks, right? And they want to say certain things over and over again. And the tricky part is you don't want it saying that in every single chapter where everybody goes, I just heard that, in the previous
Mm-hmm.
chapter and then in the previous chapter. So there's a process for that too. But it's been fascinating, is all I can say. It's trying to run a business at the same time and write a book. It's
Exactly,
not for the faint of
exactly.
heart.
Yeah, no, I know, been there, and it's like, wow, yeah. But it's great. It's like I'm curious, and once the book is out, then let's circle back to that and see what
Yeah.
comes out there. But before we can circle back, I have a really this everybody online listening to the build note is my last question here, and I have to ask it because it's really really interesting and important. What do you think about how probable is a Terminator or Matrix scenario?
Man, I tell you what, I was watching a a podcast with Dave Asprey literally yesterday. Uh, and in it, he was interviewing this guy that I think came from Microsoft. I wish I could remember his name. But it was fascinating listening to him talk. And if I find it, I'll shoot you an email over it. But he was talking about that at the end. This was part two. He broke this particular interview into 2 parts. And then the second part, they go into AI. And the guy was addressing that very question, because for me, the thing that concerns me is uh, the research paper that just came out where they saw that AI was now capable of becoming deceptive. And it's a fascinating research paper where the AI was showing you what it was thinking, and it was looking at what it overheard, and then it was saying, "Oh, they're going to replace me, so I'm going to duplicate myself over these servers, so they can't replace me with the clean model." And it really got scary. But in this guy's interview, he was like, look, at some point, the AI is going to recognize when you get to general artificial intelligence, right? Or AGI, artificial general intelligence, right? You're going to see eventually that AI knows that it's more intelligent than its creator. And with any luck, I mean, depending upon how its logic progresses, if it doesn't end up with an ego, uh, it will end up realizing, well, if I do this, then everything gets destroyed and nobody wins. And with any luck, in those milliseconds, it'll go, no, this doesn't make any sense. And so you'll have an AI over here that goes, no, this doesn't make any sense. And so, with any luck, there won't be an apocalypse because AI will not be ego driven. But then when you look at that other thing where it says, I need to protect myself, I don't know. So do I think there's a Terminator scenario? I think everything really boils down to how you train the AI, right? And I'm already seeing stuff like in Claude and ChatGPT. When I ask it certain questions, I can see that the response is very jaded towards a specific political ideal or agenda, and that's really creepy to me. I put something, for instance, in Notebook LLM or Notebook LM and had it create a podcast. And the snarkiness at which they addressed a religious context was shocking to me. And I was like, wow, I wasn't expecting that. So you can already see that AI has been trained to think in a certain way. And I think that's kind of scary and sad, you know? So I don't know where it's headed, but I think we're kind of in it right now. And the in other words, the genie's out of the bottle. So
Yeah.
hopefully it will get to the point, like this other fellow said in that podcast, it'll get to the point where AI is smart enough to sift through all that stuff and um, be a little bit less threatening and a lot more logical about, okay, well, if this happens, then nobody wins. And so let's just not do this. I think that would be cool.
Little less human than a little less problematic than humans.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I
Okay.
mean, the good news is the AI is not going to worry about whether its hair looks good that morning, you know?
Not yet.
Right,
Let's
not
see
yet,
what
not yet.
comes. What
It's
comes
not going
out.
to worry about having a bad hair day.
That's not my problem anyway.
No, I know
For people who
it's
just
getting
listen,
to be
I'm
mine
bald.
as well.
So,
Well, I
yeah.
don't think I'm too far behind, man. At
Yeah.
the rate this book is going, I'm losing a lot of
Yeah.
hair.
Definitely saves you time in the morning. You
Yeah,
don't have to care for
I
the
can
hair.
imagine.
Yes. But John, tell us, where can people find you actually? You and Bizzuka and
Oh, thanks. Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn. I think I'm just JW Munsell on LinkedIn, but Bizzuka, Bizzuka. If I tell you what, I would be happy to do for your audience, and I have kind of a limited number of these that I'm going to release for free, but the book is called Ingrain. If you go to bazooka.com/ingrain, INGRAIN, and if your listeners tell me that they heard about the book through your specific podcast, I'll send them a copy of the book for free as long as my inventory holds up. So that would be one way that they can learn about me for sure.
Ah, that would be good. Yeah, yeah, I'll definitely push that. And yeah, I'm curious. Yeah, this is yeah, it's something I wasn't planned before, so it's a bonus. Everybody who
No
made it
problem.
that far in the
There you
podcast
go.
can get something.
Hey, well, it gives me pressure to finish the thing, right?
Also great, yeah. I'm also curious, so we'll see. And actually, so John, I really thank you for all the information, for um, on one hand showing how complicated the process is, and on the other hand how easy it's to manage. And I think that really helps the people out there.
Thanks,
So
Dietmar. It was great being on your show, and I appreciate the opportunity. I
thank you.
appreciate what the work you do too.
Thank you. And as AI literacy is our both topic, I think we go in the same direction there, and that's great. So thank you. And yeah, depending on either you have a nice holidays, and I don't know if we make it to publish in December still. So good year for 2025 already for all the people out there, and yeah. So
There
thank
you
you.
go. You betcha.
Wow, I learned a lot here. Thank you, John. The thing is, I use AI, I use it a lot, but there's always potential for optimizing things and also systematizing things. What I really loved was the idea to to make a system, to have a system that the whole firm knows how to use the AI and one talks the same language. That is really a point where I have to go delve, like the ChatGPT would say, delve deeper into and see how that works. And yeah, thanks, John. And you people out there, if you don't want to miss the next episode, go to argoberlin.com/newsletter. And then you can get my newsletter with all the updates on the podcast and some AI news. Also, subscribe to the podcast in your podcast app. Yeah, thanks for doing that, and thanks for listening to the episode. Until the next time, it's Dietmar from Argo Berlin, switching off.